Okay, today's movie is one that I'd heard a ton of as a kid, but I never got around to seeing. 1979's When a Stranger Calls, starring Carol Kane and Charles Durning. Now, you may have heard of the first part of this movie, and that's the thing. All the kids when I was young were talking about it. Carol Kane is the babysitter, and she's getting phone calls. Have you checked the children?
Hello?
Why haven't you checked the children?
And it sounded really cool and scary. And it is, but here's the thing. That's just the first 20 minutes of the movie. Nobody ever told me that. So when I finally sat down to watch the movie, I was like, what? That's not what the whole movie's about? Now, the remake actually is all about that. The remake is all about a babysitter trapped in a house and a guy's trying to kill her. It ain't that great either. I'm probably not going to review it. So what happens when a stranger calls? What happens after that 20 minutes? Well, we jump ahead a few years, and the killer has escaped from the mental institution, and Charles During, who it's not, at least it's not, things like, seems like he used to be a cop, and now he's retired, and he's doing private investigating work or something. He is trying to track down the escaped killer. And the next hour or so is really sort of like a crime drama where he is just going around homeless shelters, really seedy hotels, where he look at talking to homeless people. And it's really kind of interesting, but only because it's like, oh, this is kind of like what New York City was like in the late 70s. And we actually do see the killer, him, on the outside. And it's kind of interesting to see how poorly we treat back then and still do people with mental illnesses. What was interesting is the killer, he creeps on this woman in a bar, and I'm like, that woman's familiar. Turns out she was Murphy Brown's mom on Murphy Brown TV show. So that's kind of interesting. So, but that part, it's only interesting in kind of an abstract, anthropological kind of way. It's not scary. There's no action in the middle hour or so. Then the last 15 minutes, those get interesting again. And that's when we see what has happened to Carol Kane's character now that she's grown up. This movie I have kind of a weird history with this movie because I have seen the remake. And when I was in college, I saw the sequel, When a Stranger Calls Back. And I was in college at the time, and I think it was actually a Showtime movie made for Showtime. And I think I was living in the dorms, and we had a free weekend or something. And that movie I can definitely recommend. Although it is kind of slow, there are some definite what the hell is going, what did I just see moments. So maybe I'll review that one again at some point in the future. But for the original When a Stranger Calls, it's kind of interesting. It's got a good 20 minutes here. It's got some good 15 minutes at the end. I am going to give it 2 thumbs up. Amazing first act. Interesting second act. Pretty good third act.